Welcome everybody out to episode 96 of Utah in the Weeds, a discussion about cannabis and cannabis culture here in Utah. I'm your host, Tim Pickett. Today, our interview is with Bijan, Sakaki, and Paul Henderson. Bijan is the founder of Beehive Medical Cannabis Farmacy here in Utah, and Paul also is one of the partners. Paul is also the CEO of High Times, really the largest, essentially, media group for cannabis in the cannabis space. And we talk a lot about his High Times' opening of dispensaries in California and how that, what started out as a magazine and writing articles has become a full-fledged vertical offering in the cannabis space. We also talk a lot about Beehive Medical Cannabis Farmacy here in Utah with Bijan. Really great sesh with those two. It was super fun and perfect intro into the week of 420. You know, when I was growing up, I was going to rodeos around July 4th, and that was always called cannabis or cowboy Christmas. And 420 seems to be cannabis Christmas or the hippie holidays, whichever you prefer. This is a great week for Utah Therapeutic Health Center, our Spirit Week. As a healthcare company that is focused on bringing cannabis into legitimate medicine. It's super fun this week for us as well. Beehive Medical Cannabis Farmacy here in Utah is on 1991 South, 3600 West. It's right off of the 21st South Freeway, headed west. If you had thought about going out to Wendover and getting your cannabis this week, just get off of 3200 West there on the 2100 South Freeway and just stop in here in Utah. Save yourself the trip and the legal problems with going out to Nevada and just stop here. We've got a clinic across the street that'll be open all week, right there across from Beehive. And it's a great place. They've got drive-through, they've got online ordering, they've got a huge parking lot there, and they're going to have an event on 420 with special discounts, and we'll be there as well. Stop by and see us, stop by and see the other vendors. Just an exciting week all around, and enjoy this episode, this discussion with Bijan and Paul. Your name first, because then I got to get that right.
Paul Henderson.
CEO of High Times.
CEO of High Times.
High Times, just High Times.
It was High Times Magazine. Some people still refer to it as that name, but yeah, High Times. We're branched off into a bunch of different directions now.
And Bijan, we've had you on the podcast before.
Yes.
We even heard about all of your paintball.
That was history. Old world. Yes.
Your old world
old
stuff.
Old world. Bijan Sakaki, CEO of Beehive.
World's best Utah Cannabis Farmacy.
Yes. You heard it from Tim, not me.
That's right.
Yeah. So Beehive Farmacy, we've got Buzz, we've got Beehive Gardens.
Buzz and Beehive Gardens are the brand names because you're vertically integrated.
Correct. We're one of the 4 vertically integrated groups. So Beehive Gardens is
that's not well known, I think.
Okay.
I think that it's well known that Wholesome and Perfect Earth with True North is Curaleaf now with Trike. But I think there are a few.
Dragonfly is also vertical.
But that's
Dragonfly.
But that's because we did not start out that way, right? We were retailers, and we had the chance to acquire the license from Harvest. And
so Harvest was the
initial
grower,
correct?
And then you acquired that.
Yep.
Paul, were you involved in the whole thing, all along?
Yep.
Because I think we met originally.
Maybe around the opening of Beehive in Salt Lake.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not as long as Bijan, but well before the laws had passed, Bijan and I had got together and started talking about what Utah would look like. And then I was going to be a small advisor just to help out with what I had done in the California market. And then that just kept snowballing into a larger, role. And then Bijan and I actually wrote the applications ourselves. We didn't hire law firms.
Wow.
And so, I was there all along with the coming in 9th place on cultivation, first loser, all the way through to, top application on the retail side.
How does that, I remember that because I was lifting weights with Sean Hammond
Mhm.
at the time that all those applications were being processed. And then the losers and the winners,
Mhm.
They all get their emails
right?
and they're like, "Hey, it wasn't you."
Yeah, hey, it wasn't you. What does it look like to lose and then try to get Harvest's license, or how did that play out?
Well, I mean, I think it's a longer journey than that.
Yeah.
Like helping stand some things up and then stepping away from it, and then really digging in with Beehive once retail came through. So, everything comes back full circle. And, I wouldn't say that this was like an overnight thing. We've been putting in 10 plus years into this thing.
Yeah.
So it's just like the re-evolution of it. So we missed out on cultivation, we got retail, and we had a fortunate opportunity to help manage and operate one of them early on. And then given that multi-state operator situation, divestiture of assets, et cetera, we were able to then, while we already were managing it, we were consuming all the output from it anyway. It gave us the ability to now throw metaphorical gas on the fire and then start increasing the quality and some of the outputs and the SOPs.
The story is interesting too, because I'm kind of a nerd in the cannabis space in the sense that like I'll listen to earnings releases and I'll read like MD&A, what the companies put out as part of their quarterly earnings releases. And I actually saw in one of those that Harvest had said that their board of directors and management had come together and decided to divest of a bunch of assets in non-core states. So states outside of Arizona and California and a couple of where they wanted to double down because they only have limited funds and bandwidth and they can't be everywhere. And so when I saw that, High Times had actually done a deal with Harvest to buy some retail stores in California. So I reached out to the M&A guy saying, hey, I see that you guys are going to divest of non-core assets. You didn't get retail in Utah. Any chance you want to sell your Utah cultivation? And he's
Nice.
like, I don't know, maybe. And then that just started the conversation. And it took a good year or so or
Year and a
more,
half.
year and a
Yeah,
half
year
to
and a
actually
half.
go through. Mostly because it was kind of the first transfer of ownership license in the state of Utah and nobody wanted to run afoul, didn't know what to do. And so they really took their time from a regulatory process to understand.
That is the Department of Health over that, or the Department of Ag over that?
That was Department of
Department
Ag.
of Ag.
Yeah, and they work hand in hand with the Attorney General's office.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, they're really went through, and the first time you do anything is going to be the most challenging. And so it was a good experience for both people to know what kind of undertaking that requires.
So, but since that transition of ownership with Harvest, and now you're vertically integrated, you're not the only ones who've done that, right? Then
That's correct.
Curaleaf did that with Trike.
Correct.
And then,
and then it went the opposite way with Zion and Bloom.
Correct. Zion worked in alignment with
the retail operation. And now I guess if you drive down there, their sign even says Zion Medicinal on the wall.
Well, okay.
Oh, really?
So technically then the number then would be six vertically integrated operators.
Okay. Got it.
Huh.
Wow.
And, while a lot of people think vertical integration is the solution to everybody's problems, it poses its benefits, absolutely, but it also has a lot of challenges because then, people have a different market strategy. People are cultivating with different intent. Some cultivators here are cultivating strictly for extraction, for gummies and for distillates. Other people
I've been there.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is no right or wrong.
It's just a different
strategy.
That's what's been so fascinating for me to be on the medical side, but then to also start to get relationships with all these, both the retail, the processors, the growers, the vertically integrated, the non-vertically integrated, and see the different personalities of the companies and what their skill set is, right? What types of products they believe are going to benefit the market or the patient base.
Yeah.
And that's been as fascinating as anything.
It's hard. And it's hard, and everyone's going to have an opinion. Like what
Totally. We do it right. We're the only ones who do it right. We're the only ones who make medicine. Oh no, we're the only ones who do it.
Or if you go this way, you're going to have 5 people that say, great, they went left. And half the people say, well, why didn't they go right? You know? And so no matter what you do, people always have an opinion. And so our strategy is different than other people's. We want to have we like our motto internally is no boof, like no mids. We don't want any mid grade. If I'm not going to consume it, if our team's not going to consume it ourselves, we don't want it coming out of our facility.
Do you feel like that's what somewhat sets you apart from some of the other license holders in Utah, is that history of being somewhat of an expert consumer or in this space longer than other people?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Bijan from a consumer perspective, but even I've been in the California space for 6 years. So understanding just the market and what works, what doesn't. If you're everything to everybody, you're nothing, right? And so you need to pick a lane and you need to stick with it. And that's what we've picked, if Bijan won't consume it, if I won't consume it, then, we're not going to sell it to our patients, even though that's a low price point, maybe a much lower price point. We don't feel it's the right thing to do.
And so with that, we've got, our garden, we've got 60 lights right now. We're putting out a decent amount of flower, but over the last 6 to 7 months, like this green crack that I just cracked open has definitely, this is our number one. That's our number one seller.
Hand that to me, Paul. We're just sitting just far enough away. And then, oh my God, in the conference room.
And then the ice cream cake too. Like very, very different, and they do very different things.
They're both so different in the smell.
But it's also a different growing style, right? So our patients are seeing the difference in what we took over, which was the Harvest brand, and now coming out with Buzz, and same genetics, just different process, right? Layering in some skills and growing from different operators, bringing in some of our friends to overlook things and give us advice and making tweaks. And all of a sudden the output becomes that much better. And so it's fun.
How does your background in High Times, when did you become CEO of High Times? Because we interviewed Stormy.
Yeah, Stormy. Yeah, who's here in Utah too.
Who's here in Utah, right?
So I actually joined and consulted with High Times in October of 2019 until January of 2020. I then became president and COO at that time, and I was held that position until January of 2022. So about 2 years, and I was just named CEO recently. So fairly new in the CEO role, but I joined High Times to pivot them from just media and events into plant touching. So retail stores, branded products, and we're doing a bunch more licensing now. So I've been there through that whole evolution. So taking on the CEO role was a pretty simple transition.
What do you, we all know High Times is the magazine, right? Originally.
Yeah.
And the events that they put on.
Mm-hmm.
Like the competition events. And I don't know much about that. What's that like?
So we have basically, think about it as business verticals. So we have media, we have events, and then now we have the plant touching world and licensing. And so the media is also the magazine. It still is the magazine. We still produce 10 physical copies a year. We've talked about going all digital, but it's like a staple on a coffee table. People love it. So we still produce that. And then we have hightimes.com, which is online. And then we have all the social media, which I believe we have about 12 million followers across our media channels, social media. And so that's one business unit. And then the events, mostly we're known for Cannabis Cup events, which basically crowns the best weed by market across the country and sometimes globally. And so I'll tell you, historically, we would go into a market, the brands would submit all of their entries, which sometimes they're collabs between companies to create the best flower or best concentrate. They submit it to the cup. We would have 20, 25 well-known judges, which would consume all the product. And then we would announce the winners at a weekend festival, right? Music and vendors and food and all that. And so COVID shuts that whole world down, right? We had a whole slate in 2020 of those events. So we canceled them. And then we actually pivoted very quickly and we productized the Cannabis Cup. And what I mean by that is we actually went to every market again. We had the brands contribute their products to be judged, but we built those into kits, which are actually a Cannabis Cup backpack. And then we worked with retailers to sell those kits to the public for the first time ever. And then the public actually had the chance to submit their entries for judging. So the public became the judge. So we call it the Cannabis Cup People's Choice Edition. And we've been running those incredibly successfully over the last 2 years during COVID.
Do you think the people choose better weed than the judges?
I don't know. I mean, maybe not. I mean, I'm not the one that's going to say, but at least now we give a voice to kind of the people, and it's all aggregate, and it's thousands of entries versus 25. So, maybe. I
mean, it is the people's plant, right? Maybe we get to choose.
So we have the events business, and then we are now operating 7 retail stores in California and 2 delivery hubs, which are non-storefronts. So we deliver in the Sacramento area and the Los Angeles area. And then
how's that going?
It's going well. So California is in a bit of a flux right now. It's in an interesting point in time, mostly around the competition with the illicit market. And I would say
there's still a bunch of competition with the illicit market.
Yeah. I mean, you're looking at California as probably a $10 billion market, and there's $3 billion of legal sales. So probably 70% is still in the illicit market there. So it's pretty wild. I would say last year you saw stimulus checks being given to people. People were at home, so they were consuming weed even when they were working.
Oh, we definitely had a bump in visits that week.
Yeah.
And for the few weeks after. Not like a noticeable, every time those checks would come,
influx of people.
You'd have an influx of people with money to spend.
We saw exactly in stores, people coming in. They had money to spend. They spent their disposable income with us or with the general industry. The problem now is that money's gone, and you see the overall market in the legal space down about 20% year over year in the retail sales.
You've seen that with stock prices.
And that too, even more so. I mean, market caps are down 50, 70% of cannabis companies. Yeah. And so we feel fortunate because we're not down that. I mean, we're basically either even from last year or up in many stores. And so I preface that to say California's in a tough spot. We're actually doing quite well. And for example, we launched a line of High Times branded products, so flower, pre-rolls, vape cartridges, and the brand was selling extremely well in our own store, but we didn't know if that was because, people are coming to a High Times store and they buy High Times product. Okay, that makes sense. But we took over a store in downtown Oakland that we did not rebrand as High Times, but we are managing it today. We put the High Times branded product simply on the floor just to see what would happen. No marketing push, no bud tenders pushing it. And it became a top 3 selling brand against all the legacy California brands overnight. And so we know that the name holds cachet. Like people know about it. You just don't know if it translates into actually like buying products in a physical storefront, but it does.
I mean, it does make sense. And you're the only company that I've ever heard of that went that direction, right?
Yeah.
Went from the marketing, the advertising, the content into retail and product branding.
And it's funny.
It's got to be an advantage. Obviously it's a massive advantage. You just told the story. Is that coming here?
Not yet. High Times is, I think, too recreational for the Utah market. The name just simply...
Yeah. Like, it probably was in the bill. I'll have to ask.
Like that
like you can't use high.
That gives off a recreational disposition.
Sure.
But that also... just because, Paul works at High Times, we're not going to try and backdoor, a High Times deal out here just for all you regulators.
Just for the regulators, right? Right.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
That wasn't the point of bringing Paul on.
No.
In fact,
I was not at High Times when we first started working on this. I was the CEO of another company.
And that, I think, so that everybody hears this as a listener and the regulators, we on the medical side, you on the production, the retail side, we do try to keep well within the guidelines of the regulations. We don't necessarily, of course, we want to push the access for more and more people because we're all believers and advocates that it's a safe substance, that we should all be able to safely use it in an educated way. But we're not trying to break the rules, right? Like we're trying to live within those rules, and we're trying to do what democracy was designed to do, change the system from within.
And on that too, when we have such red tape around what we can do, how do you differentiate yourself between other operators? Like we said before, there is no right or wrong. Everybody,
sure,
every retailer, every cultivator, every processor
But you're trying to
does things
tell that
different.
story of what makes you different. And when you can't market that story, then how's anybody supposed to find out, right? So it's a little bit of a conundrum.
It's an evolution.
And quickly you get retailers with reputation without doing anything. Like
good for good or
for
bad.
good or bad.
For good or bad.
Right?
Yeah.
I think Dragonfly had some good things and suffered in some ways in the beginning. Everybody seems like they've had that.
And to that point, they're the first. You know, so like, there's everything. There's pros and cons to everything. Every operator, every group has their strong suits. I think every store is, has a different vibe, and so that attracts different patients for different reasons. And I think when you look at home delivery, I think that is a different experience than what you're used to right now in the store. So when you talk differentiation, you lose that experience factor. So you have to go with either product or availability.
We can vape a little of that.
Yeah. Let me load up this volcano here.
Going back to the differentiation, though, what's interesting, most people don't realize, one, we took a lot of heat as High Times early on about being a media company and moving into retail, right? We were told, hey, stay in your lane, do what you do, which is media.
Who told you that?
A lot of industry people, because I think they were worried about the competition of us crossing over.
They don't have, they don't want you. I mean, you got 12 million followers. Of course they don't want you involved.
And so it's funny, right? Because, and I always explain that
you learned how to advertise.
Yeah, we're a media company that's becoming a cannabis company. And people and I use the example at the time of MedMen. They are a cannabis company, but they were trying to become a media company, right? So every cannabis company tries to become a media company because it's a customer acquisition game in California and beyond in the recreational market, right? So they like MedMen launched Ember Magazine and they're pushing their social media. Those are all assets we already have. We're just now slowly transitioning into the actual cannabis space. So anyway, it's been a phenomenal change. And I talk a lot about going horizontal across our business verticals. So what I explained there, for example, we run a cannabis cup in California. We crown the best winners of, let's say, the Southern California market. We then guarantee distribution of those winners in our stores, and we actually create a separate section for the winners that year, their products in our retail stores, right? So we're doing things we've never been able to do before, and we're going across our cannabis cup vertical and our retail vertical. The other perfect example too is cannabis cups. If anybody's listening has ever been to one in California or beyond, we historically made money through ticket sales, sponsorships, and vendor booths, just like any other event company. But now, because we're a retailer in California, we can actually sell the weed directly to the people. So historically, the vendors would have their own retail license. They would sell, and we would just say, hey, you can go ahead and sell, no problem, with all the people. So if we bring 50,000 people to an event over a weekend, those vendors going forward this year and beyond are going to check their product into us as the retailer, and then we're going to manage sales across the whole venue. So instead of generating $1 million in sales per cannabis cup, we'll generate $6 million over a weekend in cannabis sales and tickets. So again, horizontal across verticals. Wow. We have the audience. Now we're monetizing the audience.
Wow.
I mean, it's risky. Plant touching honestly sucks from a regulatory perspective.
I know. I mean,
so much
taxes. You're not plant touching.
No, I'm not plant touching, but I cannot bank. They don't believe me. They don't believe me when they look me up online and they're like, well, you're a marijuana company. I'm like, I don't touch the plant. I don't process. I don't do anything. Just please.
It was the same.
Do you need a bank?
No, I bank with you.
Okay.
I bank at the same place you do because they're the only bank in Utah that understands both sides of it, because they understand the producer side.
And that's,
they know,
honestly,
I'm not
a big silver lining of our market is you have operators like that in California. I mean, it was cash all day, and you imagine the risk you take.
Even in the medical side of things, we're down. We take a much smaller percentage of cash now than we did before. But in the beginning of the program, people were coming to me for medical visits and expecting they had to pay cash just off the front. Yeah. And I take their HSA card.
Yeah.
Right there. And that was really wild for people.
Wow.
Yeah.
But even before Plant Touching, even as an advertiser, media, and events company, we had bank accounts shut down all the time because you're
merchant
affiliated,
accounts,
right?
Yeah. It's the affiliation.
Yeah.
You promote the used sale or tell people where to find it or something like that. And it's
Tim, I mean, Paul and I, we've both been banned from major banks
personally.
Personally because of it.
Uh-huh.
Which is weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's still I think there's a growing group of people who think this is normalizing, and they're really caught off guard when they find out how redundant your businesses have to be. 2 merchant accounts, 2 bank accounts,
correct,
2 of everything, the just in case factor.
Yeah.
And I think High Times probably did that for in spades.
Decades. Yeah. And it's people, they see a state legalize and expect that you can operate like a normal business.
Like a normal business, right?
Like, forget about the federal rules around 280E and tax deductions. Like, just simply, I mean, I used to have service providers like website development companies refuse to work with me at my previous cannabis company, saying, I'm sorry, we're not even willing to take your money.
Yeah. Divvy, by the way. Divvy won't take your money. Divvy won't take a normal person's money if you find somebody online who's related to it. And it just, I don't know. Email, you're right. Website
so there's still
providers.
A long way to go.
There's still
a long way to go. We can't
there
advertise.
Isn't normalized.
Even in California, forget about the Utah rules around advertising, but in California, right, I wish that I could put up a Google ad to drive people to my storefront. I can't do it. Google won't take my money.
Well, and
can't
they changed the
Instagram.
Billboards. Changed in
any interstate that crosses state lines, you can't put up a billboard. So they made that more challenging. But every company has their own rules and what they want to do, and most of them don't want to deal with cannabis, so they don't.
So what's High Times? So High Times is now vertically integrated in a way that no other cannabis company really is. Correct. Right. With the media company.
Exactly. So vertically integrated, people generally think of growing, manufacturing, retail. We're a different vertical, right?
You're also content.
Yeah, exactly. It's content and events. It's customer acquisition, really.
How do you do? One of the things I was going to ask you with these events was when you have them in person, you can't have product from multiple states.
No.
How does that work in the U.S.?
It's
just like all a regional, meaning a state
by state. So when we host an event in Detroit or around Detroit and Michigan, we can't have a vendor come with product unless they show us that they're licensed by the state. We verify. Everything has to be state specific. Then you go to Nevada, California. So it makes for interesting things because it's all demographics, right? It's some weed in California. There's just different products there than you might find in different states. And we're crowning different categories, right, of the best cannabis. And it'll be all different brands. Some brands through licensing deals, right, have skipped across state lines. So you'll see the same brands, but it'll be different growers.
Same genetics?
No, not generally.
Almost
I would
never. Say almost never.
Some companies that are working with groups like Seed Junkie or others are trying to create this base of having the same genetics in multiple states starting from seed. And this brand is always starting from the same genetic material, but that's far and few between right now.
But also even then, when you pop seeds, you find a pheno. There's a difference in this phenotype,
or even grower conditions, right? An indoor grow isn't built the same.
Altitude,
correct.
All kinds of things. Yeah. Well, it's like coffee, right?
Yeah.
Just totally
very regionalized.
Yeah. So with Beehive, what products you've got? Buzz. Is this the only flower you're growing?
No, we've got ice cream cake there. We have green crack. We've got some mochi gelato. We've got some Lavender Jones, some of the older legacy strains that
Lavender Jones,
Purple Afghan Kush,
but they're all under the Buzz brand right now.
All under the Buzz
brand right now, and then we're working through some regulatory speed bumps regarding the cookies launch.
Oh, right. Yes.
And
how would you, because of the name, because there is some...
Well, with this recent legislation, it's defined as a recreational disposition. Well, that name was included in that piece that would prohibit
for those of you who didn't hear, that was the episode with Rich Oborn where we discussed this. in detail. So go back to that one a couple of weeks here and listen to that discussion.
And so that then puts rulemaking authority in Department of Ag to determine what is recreational or not. And so,
got it. But that is one of the most popular strains in the country.
It is probably the biggest brand in cannabis right now.
Cookies is one of the most well-known pain control strains that exists because it's full of beta-caryophyllene.
Strain 2,
yeah.
But the brand ultimately, the brand Cookies.
The high-level brand, and then there's multiple strains underneath the Cookies kind of parent, right? And each one of those strains will do something different, but your point well taken, Girl Scout Cookies initially created, right, by that company, together with some of their other strains are incredibly popular amongst certain patients. And I just heard this anecdotally in Maryland as well, is exactly that, is like there's a certain demographic, or the state also had some regulatory issues. Maryland's very medical state as well. But once kind of the patients spoke out and they realized what those strains did for patients, they gave the approval, and it's like the top selling strain in Maryland.
Yeah, I think but that again, with High Times or something that the public or the department has decided sounds too recreational, then they're really trying to put I don't know. I don't know. We can get into this.
No. It's what it is everyone's trying their best. Regulators are moving quickly. Laws pass. People have to have a position. It's just, I think we'll come to a solution. Because again, by all means, like we do not like people have a really big misconception of a medical market of cannabis. Everyone thinks, okay, medical pass. When's rec going to pass? Honestly, I hope reg never passes here, because things happen in that marketplace that you can't undo in a medical market. So right now, people are saying, from the medical side, it delegitimizes it as a medicine when you move to recreational, especially when you move that way too fast. 100%.
Right. And that's, I think, what you saw in Oregon. Their medical program goes down 20%. Or 70% after, the adult use passes. But I keep telling people, there's a third of the users here who've never used before in their life, and they would not have found cannabis unless it was medical.
Agreed.
Right. So there's an expansion of access with medical.
But you also have to look at it from put your patient hat on now and think, what does recreational tax and the additional burden passed through to a customer do? Now these $60 eighths,
that's right,
now become $85.
Correct.
Because of regulation.
Well, the adult use bill in Utah will have a tax, an excise tax, or some type of extra.
You've got a really good point. We did the calculation for Wendover.
There is no adult use Utah bill, just for anyone listening.
Right. And there's no plan. There's no
correct. But any adult use bill typically, because that's one of the things that moves the needle for people is, okay, we can have this additional income.
And you look at the cost. If you're complaining about the cost of the Utah program, the cost of the medical visit, you got, and the cost of the product, you're thinking it's high. If you compare that to driving all the way to even Wendover, right? What gas prices now, especially. And
time
and
risk
all that time and risk, and then you're crossing state lines, and then you're buying it at 22% tax there, and bringing it all the way back, breaking state laws, federal laws. Even the numbers work out to be as inexpensive here already.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I remember, Utah program, the medical program launched, and there was kind of this recoil at the pricing, and yet Missouri went live about the same time with $100 eighths. That was the cheapest you could find. And so, you're looking at it, okay, 60 versus 100. It's like, I'd rather be in the Utah program, right? It's just, I feel because we're surrounded by recreational states and states that have had programs for many, many years with prices coming down little by little year over year, people get accustomed to that's what you should pay. And so the price was a little bit of a shock. But if you compare it to a state that's around, dry states, if you will, then prices are sky high.
Boy, this, I'll tell you, I used ice cream cake when I hurt my back 2.5 weeks ago. My back totally locked up and I couldn't walk for a couple of days. It happens once every couple of years to me. I should get it looked at. But I'll be honest, I had to really use a lot of cannabis to get the pain like pretty bearable, which I was surprised about. It seems like, we talk to patients and we tell them to, use as least amount as possible. But there's a time and a place, and this is not medical advice, folks, but there's a time and a place where you just got to get basically as high as you can stand
to get through the pain.
Like get through the pain, right?
How's your back now?
Oh, it's way better. 3 days of complete, like, I can't do anything, because the first day I couldn't walk at all. Second day I could make a cup of coffee. Third day I could, watch Olympics and, get and eat lunch. But both the muscle relaxation, the pain control, and then keeping my mind away from work, I couldn't have done it without it. Totally.
No, that has been we're putting that in rotation a little more, so you'll see more ice cream cake. I'm excited for people's reaction on the new menus, because I think it's also important to keep putting out different stuff. It's challenging too when you have a small garden, because you're also limited. So until we get our expansion up and running, we're going to be trying to maximize what we have, and
grow really good flower. I mean, and the green crack.
And the green crack. The green crack is a great one. I think we're going to maybe put that on ice for a little bit and then bring it back, but we'll see.
But I'm such a lightweight.
You're good.
I'm trying to work on my tolerance, though.
This, I mean, the volcano is very, very effective.
Absolutely. So what else should we talk about? You guys, dealer's choice.
Well, Bijan just mentioned expansion. So for those that don't know, if you have one cultivation license in the state of Utah, it allows you to grow in 2 different locations. So we had been searching far for a industrial warehouse, but with COVID, all the big companies snatched up every warehouse you could find. So that had been made very difficult. So we're working on some options. We might be able to expand at our current spot. And so that'll just increase canopy, allow us to bring out more varieties, more strains at the same time.
Feed more stores. Because right now it's also a little bit harder where, we sell so much at retail. So if our output is X and our sales are Y, we also have to make sure that other people have enough to eat as well.
Right. Yeah, because we have a lot of patients move a lot. We've been surprised at how people are moving around.
What do you think? What do you think is the driver there? Because a lot of stuff is priced differently at different stores. Same stuff, priced differently. Is it?
Yeah, I think people are learning that they can go, like, if they're headed home to Tooele, they're going to find you, right? Whereas eventually, in the beginning, they were all.
People are still finding us, though.
But people were going to Dragonfly for a whole year because they didn't know anybody else was open. Yeah. Now, God bless them. I love you, Kevin, over there. But
no,
they really didn't know anybody else was even open.
Yeah.
And they would live by one, like in Ogden. They were driving all the way down to Salt Lake. So that's the problem with the advertising, though, right? Nobody can really
get the word out. You are on the state website, but I can count on one hand.
And not to mention, Paul, we just got our Instagram shut down. So
that's right.
All you haters, thank you, because we're just going to make another one and we'll just get that one shut down again.
Yep. Yeah. Every time your reach increases, kaboom! Somebody flags you, and then you're suppressed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised on Instagram. We've had okay success on Instagram. It's Facebook, man. We cannot get any reach on Facebook at all.
It's hard, but
same company though, just different internal policies and no rhyme or reason, right? You do everything right. You follow the rules. You don't sell anything on Instagram,
you don't sell anything.
And you have your license numbers there, so they know you're legit, and it doesn't matter. It shuts you down. And now it's the one voice we had to kind of speak to our patient base. To this is what's going on. Come in. So. Just got to start over and do it again.
Yeah, that's so crazy how they can even do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's federally legal, so they report to bigger people than we do.
Anybody wondering, it's Beehive Farmacy with an F. Backup is our new.
Yes.
Beehive Pharmacy Backup is our new Instagram handle, so go check it out.
Hopefully we get Beehive Pharmacy Backup. No, but it is Backup.
Are most people coming through the drive-through now?
People still do. People still do. It's people still come drive through.
50% of orders or so coming through the two-lane. Is it that high right now? I remember the numbers.
Do you have delivery yet?
We're about to do delivery.
What's the name of the delivery service? Do you know?
We're gonna do it internally.
You're gonna do it yourself?
Yeah, it was a build versus buy decision, and
you decided to do it.
We decided to do it. So
can you sell space in your car for flyers for like Red Hanger dry cleaners,
or for
Utah
Therapeutics, or for Utah?
Not for me. I'm just thinking like like Mobetta, food.
I don't know.
I think I don't think I know all the driver stuff needs to be discreet, non-marked. Yep. So it's not like this is a truck delivering weed, and you can get a menu at Mobetta's,
right? Yeah. So I just, I'm always interested in like what else can you do?
Yeah,
at the point of sale.
I know originally the advertising requirements were a little bit undefined for those third-party couriers.
Yeah.
So we've been seeing our friends love the billboards, love them.
Yeah,
they're everywhere.
They are.
I think it helps raise awareness for everybody.
That cannabis is legal in Utah. I still talk with people every day that have no idea there's a medical bill in Utah.
Yeah, that's my billboard. And and it's no matter how much exposure any other like QMP group gets, it's totally great for us.
Yeah.
Right. Because it just exposure
it asks the question. People
they talk to 4 or 5 people.
For sure.
They learn it's legal here and where they can if it's an option for them.
Yeah, we talk a lot about how we're not really in competition with the other licensed groups. Our main competition is the illicit market. It doesn't matter what state you're in. I talked about California, but Utah has a big underground market with I-80 coming through here. I don't think it's any surprise. So it's us really educating patients here or potential patients that, hey, this is legal now. You can go through and get your card and come into a pharmacy.
But for a lot of people too, they're like, well, why would I do that? And if you truly are mindful of like what you eat and what you're putting in your body, what you're consuming, then you want to know that this has been tested. We want to talk about lessons in California. So a lot of things in California that never would pass testing would allegedly get destroyed. Then those things allegedly appear in other markets. So if you really don't have a grip,
didn't we have something like that here coming out of Tooele or something? There's
always
huge bust.
So Paul's comment about the 80 and the 15, this is where the 80 and the 15 meet. And so there's people always getting caught with, you'll read on KSL, 300 pounds in a car in Summit County or Tooele County or whatever. And that guy's, going back to Albany, New York or wherever he's from. So you get a lot of questionable product. You have these vape pens back during the quote unquote vape gate stuff. Yeah. So those are full with dilutants, vitamin E acetate. A lot of the actual oil itself had like myclobutanol, pesticides. So like if you have dirty flour that doesn't pass and then you extract it, now all those pesticides are concentrated in that distillate. And then that's what's being used to then make gummies and fill vape carts.
And even before that, if you have flour from California that pops for a pesticide that Bijan just mentioned, myclobutanol, it's called Eagle 20 as well. And it's sprayed on like fruits and vegetables in California. So it's not dangerous if you eat it. But if you put flame to the weed, it turns into cyanide and you're inhaling that. So it's, talking about being careful about what you're putting in your body, like there's dangerous chemicals that, you can be inhaling if you don't know where the flower is coming from.
And even on the edible side, because we get a lot of people that come into the store and they're like, hey, I bought these gummies, and, they'll pull up a picture on their phone and they're like these gummy bears that are like rolled around in distillate. And it's like, you don't really know what's in that. With these, you know how much is in one serving and one product.
Are these in your store?
These ones are not. We're actually going to start producing these here the next few weeks. These are going to be, I think, a really good product for this market.
Do you want to talk about them? They're just empty packages right now, but they're tablets, yeah?
Yeah. So these are pro tabs by Level. Level was started by one of the smartest guys in cannabis that I know, Chris Emerson. He's a PhD. Brilliant guy, brilliant team. Him and his wife run the company, and they have really formulated a great product. It's a small form factor. It doesn't digest in your liver, so the effects are very similar to a flower high. It doesn't convert into 11-hydroxy, so it's not like that, that meme when an edible kicks in and you're like, riding that rocket ship. So it doesn't give you that. It's a very familiar experience to what you would get if you medicate with flower. So we're going to drop these. We're going to have 100 milligram tabs, 25 milligram tabs, single packs, 4 packs, 10 packs. So I think it'll be a really good alternative for people that, are familiar with the edible consumption, but are also new to cannabis and, maybe don't want to take something with sugar and gelatin and food coloring and all the other stuff in there when this is simply just.
Well, the tolerance will be a little different because if it doesn't convert to 11-hydroxy, then it's almost like the level of high or that level of psychoactivity is different, right?
Yeah.
But consistent dosing, we do need more products in Utah with consistent dosing so that you know exactly how many milligrams you're taking, what it's likely going to feel like. From a medical standpoint, that's just how medicine should be taken.
Understood. And that's the same approach. That's why, I've known these guys for 5+ years. And when this market opened up, we have the third or fourth worst opioid problem right now.
Yeah.
And
it's huge.
And so for a lot of chronic pain people, this is not an unfamiliar method of consumption, whereas vaporizing flower or vaporizing a cartridge might be.
Or even taking a gummy. Some people are like, it's like I'm eating candy, like those the gummy vitamins.
Yeah.
True.
They feel like it's not real. It's not real. Pills are just so much easier for people to understand when it comes to medicine.
And part of it too is just watching a lot of these variable doses of edibles sell really well and really poorly. And so we're coming out with a smaller dose market, more of that micro tier, single digit milligrams.
You can see, so as a retailer though, that's a good point you bring up. You can see what patients want, where the demand is. And then, even if you're a little smaller with the production side now, you're kind of coming into it in a better spot where you can develop products that
it's just market research, right? It's like, you know exactly what's selling. You can go back and you can build what people want to buy, right? So you don't have to guess and check. You don't have to come out with something and test it. It's
has that been something that you personally have been able to really influence in Beehive because your experience in the marketplace?
A little bit, but I wouldn't say to that extent. But I think I helped a lot early on like what e-commerce business to go with, like Dutchie on the front end, so we can take orders online and. Like our big sign, instead of the brand name, just put a big green cross and, it's like the bat signal. Right. And so anyway, it was just a lot of those little things.
It is going down the 201, right? Right.
Yeah, 80. Yep, right out the 201.
And so it was more kind of business related stuff that like I actually tried and failed and iterated and went through multiple versions of things to kind of figure out what works. And then we just got the benefit on the Beehive side of like, hey, let's skip all that. And these guys build the best website for cannabis retail stores. So let's go there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And that, again, a lot of how we ran things is all relationship based. So we work together because we want to work together. It's not because it was like, oh, this is the only opportunity at hand and this is a forced relationship, so we've got a lot of trust there. But also too, to the earlier point, we can listen at the registers and be like, people are asking for more concentrates. So now we're going to take all of our trim and we're going to now make concentrates that everybody that's going out to Wendover doesn't need to go to Wendover anymore. It's like, we're going to now have some good cured live resin. We're going to have some cured resin. We're going to do some solventless. And again, it's that comment Paul made earlier. You can't be everything to everybody. We can't sell mids and also pretend to sell top shelf and then also pretend to sell, little chintzy, like, snake oil type items. And so So it's like picking what's really important to us. Like we're super passionate about the brands we're bringing. Level's one of them. Cookies is another one. You've seen a couple of the other brands that we've launched at Beehive, like Proper, like Relief Society.
Yeah.
Those two are great brands too. By the way,
and
that Relief Society is
they have
really
great products too.
Yeah.
And part of our strategy on the Relief Society carts was we see a lot of carts come through the store with returns, bad hardware, bad inputs. So how can we make that tweak a little bit?
And this is the stuff we saw in California, the $1 Chinese cartridges, like they have a failure rate and you know what it is. And so, yeah, you can save a couple of bucks, but then your brand gets a bad reputation of your hardware failing all the time. So, do you spend some more money? Do you upgrade the hardware? Do you just kind of work with people like Relief Society, let them know this is exactly what works. We've already tested it. I've already been through all these iterations in California and use this manufacturer for your hardware and no returns yet. I guess I just heard today.
Yeah, it's been great. And so we have the luxury of also, again, put our patient hat on. Like, would we use this? What issues do we have? Because we're using it. Okay. Does this hardware need better improvement? Let's try and do something. Is the flower testing well enough? A lot of people are either flavor chasers or potency chasers. So, with flavor, you need more terpenes, you need more resin production, which adds to the medicinal benefit of the actual plant itself. So how can we double down on our environmentals? Let's change the way we feed. Let's change our schedule. I'm generalizing here, but the changes we've made in cultivating in the last 6-7 months look completely different. And so over the next couple months, you'll see the flower quality starting to increase, because once you make a change, you're not going to see it until the end product 6-7 months later. So things that we're doing now, you're not going to see at market until July ish.
You guys really are, now that I've been talking to you for the hour, you guys you're the only owners who know the business top to bottom. You realize that, don't you?
Well,
from clear out to the consumption side. Yeah. Nobody's doing it all the way, or nobody's really involved all the way in the vertical, right? They're either involved heavily in the retail and not in the grow and the production. Yeah. But you guys seem to be involved all the way.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know enough of the other operators to know that, actually. So it's interesting. But before I was running High Times, I was the CEO of a company called Grupo Flor, which was one of the larger vertically integrated companies in California. So I have run 230,000 square feet of cultivation in Dutch glass greenhouses myself, right? I actually worked with the greenhouse companies to convert them from cut flowers to cannabis. So I understood, I had to learn everything from light cycles and, what we're talking about, environmentals with lights and humidity and everything Bijan just mentioned. So while I'm not doing it at High Times, bringing all those skills together with what Bijan knows and some of our other partners, we've been at every single level I had the first ever hydrocarbon extraction license in the state of California was in Salinas, California. It was me, because we brought the Colorado Department Marijuana Enforcement Division, MED, spoke with them, brought their fire department consultants out to California, worked with the cities. Like, you didn't have a choice but to actually build it, right? So we're doing the same thing here, but we can benefit. Bijan was in California for a while too, so he saw all that. So we're now owners, operators. We now have been involved in every single thing from genetics through to retail delivery. And, I think, it shows in our product here in Utah that we care a lot about what we do.
Yeah.
And, while we're not in the garden every day, we got a really solid team up there, and we're getting better at figuring it out. Yeah. But when we do make a change, we all know what we're changing.
Yeah. And why.
So it's a double-edged sword though, because while we are involved, that may inhibit our growth or our ability to scale at that degree. But I think right now, when you're juggling chainsaws, it's better to be careful.
You're juggling some pretty good chainsaws though. I mean, you've got a very successful, in my opinion, you run a really great pharmacy. Your pharmacists in both locations are excellent.
Thank you.
Really involved. Mindy and I talk all the time and
She's
are
great.
Involved in a group, from Brigham City. So, and yet it almost seems like the best is yet to come still. because you have all of this expansion of grow, the product side, the brands you want to bring on. I mean,
yeah, it's
Absolutely.
and on top of that is just like double down on customer service. Everyone's trying, so we don't want our spot to be a place people come because they feel like they have to. It's because it's a place they come because they want to. They trust the people that are there, as the pharmacist, as the pharmacy agent, as us, the owners, because there's not a lot of people that like, I mean, I'm very open about like, know who you're supporting.
Right.
It's like that whole, know where your food comes from campaign. So we have a pretty small team, and I'd say we're probably the mom and pop underdog.
You won't always be.
Yeah. And you mentioned Brigham City. We haven't talked a lot about that, but that's the second location of the retail store for those that don't know.
For those that don't know.
We are in Salt Lake off the 201, but Brigham City right in between kind of Logan and Ogden, if you will.
Oh, yeah. You got to make the turn off of the freeway to go up the canyon.
So take the 1100 South exit.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're right in the same parking lot as Walmart, next to Subway and a Supercuts.
Yep.
Right like in between there in that strip. Like a little strip mall. Your sign's on the back of the store.
You'll see the Green Cross.
I know what I see. I see it every time I drive up.
You'll see the Green Cross. And if you're a patient in Salt Lake, all your information's, in Brigham City. So you don't have to see the pharmacist again unless you want to.
And there's probably no line there most of the time.
Honestly, it's been getting a lot busier. Mindy's been doing a really good job of she
comes by, make sure our patients know that she's up there.
Well, she took over like her own ordering.
Does she?
And so we were trying to run things central to Salt Lake.
Yeah.
And this is an example of areas where we thought we knew, hey, this is the right strategy. We learned, it's not. And so centralizing ordering was great for vendors, but kind of a nightmare for us because the frequency of what was happening in Brigham City
was different. It'd be totally different.
It was different.
Different product selections. And
we run that. I mean,
different demographic. Like we look at the ratios of what sells, flour, edibles, vape carts, different in Salt Lake than it is in Brigham, and we have the same products on the menu. So, Mindy and the crew, Zed, Landon, we got a couple new hires up there as well. They've been holding it down, some new pharmacists, and we're hoping that we can be kind of that specialty location for, again, that high-end, top-shelf medicine that you otherwise wouldn't be able to get at other pharmacies.
Cool.
Yeah, and it's been growing month over month. So I think really just as patient count has gone up, we see the results at the end pharmacy.
That's cool. Okay, so tell me your Instagram again, the new one.
Beehive Farmacy Backup.
Beehive Farmacy Backup with an F.
Pharmacy with an F.
Pharmacy with an F.
Yep.
How else can people get a hold of you? What's the address of the locations?
So beehivepharmacy.com. From there, you can either make a registration appointment as a new patient. You can view our menu for both stores and place an order there. Salt Lake's location, 1991 South, 3600 West, Salt Lake City, 84104. So that's right off the 201, right near Bangor Highway.
Mm-hmm.
Brigham
Easy
City.
to get to.
Brigham City is 1150 South, 870 West, Unit C.
I'm testing you right there.
I know.
Yeah.
Unit
I
C.
can tell.
Right next to Subway. Follow your nose to
just
Subway.
follow your nose. When you go to Subway, just stop by the medicine store.
But you can also call us if you have any questions.
And you can find you at utahmarijuana.org/dispensaries. For anybody who's just looking up dispensaries in Utah, not medical cannabis pharmacies, you tend to run into us. And we have all of your information, both locations too, and some really good reviews, actually.
Well, great. And I know we've got some
we've done articles on some of the stuff on utahmarijuana.org.
I know we also have some deals for some of your patients
new
as well.
Patients. If you see us in West Valley, especially, you're going to get a coupon to the pharmacy straight away.
Street.
Yep. And you can just, so we did have some patients. We've had patients come in the morning, and then by the time they leave our office, have their card and be able to come across the street. We've actually had that happen.
That's great. So
because the Department of Health has been
turnaround.
Almost everybody gets a same day turnaround now, but some people get a 2-hour turnaround
Great.
because the Department of Health has been really on top of
That location, your
reviewing.
location was really popping during the letters.
Oh, the letters
that.
was great because you could walk over.
Because you would walk
right?
over. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, we're there's some things with the system right now that are. I'm squinting my eyes right now, people. Okay, so Utah in the Weeds podcast. If you're not subscribed, then subscribe to the podcast. UtahMarijuana.org/dispensaries, Beehive Farmacy. Man, it's been great talking to you, Bijan, and Paul. You congratulations with your store.
Thank you.
In California for
and
High
the
Times
new role.
and the new role here. And
for those that don't know, I live in Utah. So I never clarified that. This is my home base. I travel for High Times. So my office for High Times is in Venice Beach, but I'm on the road generally 3 to 4 weeks out of the month.
Didn't you go to BYU?
I did go to BYU.
And
as
he
well.
would
So
see.
I'm
We
Utah
have got
through
some.
and through. So that's what I'm saying. I'm not the outside guy coming in. I live here.
Well, and there's the bells. There's the
That's
church
the wrap
bells.
up.
That's it. All right, everybody.
Thank you,
Stay
Tim.
safe
Thanks,
out there.
Tim.